what's on the docket for the future, all of the things.
Where
so
you're from, what you like to do in your free time.
Okay. All right.
yeah, super easy. We're just gonna hang out for an hour, which
Okay,
is like
let's do it.
so lucky.
Yeah.
I
There's
feel
no
it's so
like
fun.
have you listened to any of the ones
I
yet?
did yesterday.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
one was it?
I listened to Jess Toolson.
Oh,
And
fun.
then I
Awesome.
listened to, I forget his name. Purple.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so our
Yeah.
2 most recent ones.
Mhm.
Yes.
He was
Okay.
such a cool guy.
Was he?
Yeah. I don't. Are you a shoe guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
no.
like was so cool about. He was the CEO of New Balance
Yep.
before.
Oh yes.
And I'm like a New
I was like, I
Balance
haven't listened to that one yet, so I need to
Fan.
listen to that
I
one.
have
Okay.
so many pairs there, but I'm literally wearing them today.
You really are.
I'm running
Yeah.
my half marathon in my New Balances in 2 days.
Rock
But
on.
it was so fun to talk to him. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was cool. Anyways,
No, I thought that he was dynamic. He was sharp, and that's not an easy business to run.
no, like
You know,
going from shoes to
to
a mattress.
mattresses. I
Yeah,
can't
I mean, just the
imagine.
logistics of it, the technology of it, the production of it. I grew up close to the Purple factory, not factory, but one of them, the one in Alpine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I've seen it and I've been around it for so long. And so to
Yeah.
hear some of his insight on it was cool.
No,
I
he
liked
was
it.
such a sharp guy. His like shoelaces were purple.
Oh no
His
way.
like vest he was wearing had a purple zipper thing. I'm like, oh well, yeah, you gotta
Fancy.
like play the part. Like, how do you represent your brand when it's
Yeah.
a mattress? You know, like so he was like wearing a nice outfit, but like with purple touches, and I was like, well,
Was he wearing New Balance shoes?
Oh, no, I think they were like dress shoes.
Really?
Okay.
Maybe they were New Balance. I don't think so though.
Hmm.
I probably would have remembered if they were, so I don't think
Yeah.
so. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Cool.
well, that's fun. So you grew up in Alpine.
I grew up in Alpine. I was born in Provo. I grew up in Alpine, and I'm Utah boy through and through. So this is home. It's always been home. Love it.
Is your wife from Utah as well?
She's not. She's from all over the place. She was born in Boston, grew up in Southern California, and then ended
Yeah.
up in Tennessee.
Oh, fun.
So, and from my perspective, it's always been interesting, like our dynamic. She moved around so much when she was young. I always was so close to home. And so I've wanted to, I mean, the reality of running a digitally native brand is that you can do it from any place.
Right.
And so I'm saying,
Let's go.
how's Thailand? Maybe we can run it from, how's Costa Rica? You know, let's take the kids and uproot. And she's like, no, I love it here. This is home. We're going to stay right where we are. And I think it's just by virtue of how much she moved when she was younger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind
But-
of like does something to you.
Yeah.
Like my mom her dad was in the army, so they moved a ton.
Yes.
And so she's like, I want to live in this house the rest of my life. Like, I'm totally fine. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm that way, I feel like, because I think about my kiddos, right? I want
Yep.
them to have their best friend.
base.
There's people I know who have friends that they've been friends from probably all through grade school,
Yeah.
through college, and then you now even do your trips as an adult. And I'm like, that is just so cool to have people in your like circle that have been with you for your in each stage
Yeah.
of your growth. Like that's
Yeah.
just so cool and unique. Maybe
Yeah.
not in your case, but I
it
think
is
it's so
100%.
unique. It's so cool.
Yeah, and you do tend to lean on those relationships, and I've got friends that I've had since I was in 5th grade
That's
that
so
continue to
cool.
be my friends that I've seen, just this week. And so that kind of anchoring and that kind of orbit and support around you is really helpful, and I think it actually helps enable to take risks and to do things that you normally wouldn't do just because you've got this kind of steady background. I don't know.
well, it
Yeah.
probably helps in
I-
your business too. Like,
Yeah.
people who are close or, I mean, Utah is a great place to
Yeah.
have, a community for a business, but
Yep.
I'm sure it probably helps. Like, oh yeah, my neighbor or someone in my neighborhood does this, and I can maybe reach out to that. And I just feel like everyone's here happy to help and super friendly too. So
Yeah.
I mean, that probably helps to your advantage as well. But
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the power of network, and networks run deep and a lot of times take a lot of history to build. And superficial networks are pretty useless in my opinion. But the ones that are genuinely created over time because of shared experience end up being very fruitful, for everybody. And I think that's one of the benefits that you get from being in a place for a long time.
Absolutely. And just building those like real authentic friendships.
Yeah.
There's just something cool about that, especially in business, right?
Absolutely.
To be able to have that trust already established is really cool. Really
Yeah.
cool.
so you grew up in Alpine. Did you go to college In Utah too?
I did.
You did.
And I'll kind of highlight some of the stuff that lends to the business path.
Yeah,
But
let's hear it.
as a kid growing up, this is kind of an interesting story. One of my friends in Alpine, affluent kind of family. I was at his house, and he told me what had happened. He said, "I got $1,000 yesterday." I said, "No way! How'd you get $1,000?" And he said, "Well, my dad took his wheels off of his car to put his winter tires on, and so I put them on eBay and I sold them." And I was like, "You did what?" Like out from under his dad. His dad had no idea that he'd sold these wheels, and he got $1,000 and shipped them off and did the whole thing. He paid for it. I mean, like it was brutal between him and his dad. 2 months later, when his dad figured out that his wheels had gone, but it inspired in me this desire to go and see what that was like, to go and sell a thing on eBay. And so I think I was probably 15 years old and started rummaging around the house looking for stuff to sell online. And so it was books and headphones and stuffed animals, anything that I could find. And I was just going through it like I was selling, and I was asking my mom to take me to the post office so that we could ship it away. And then when we'd run out of stuff that she would let me sell, it was like, "Hey, can we go to Big Lots?" If you guys know that store.
Yeah.
And go and pick up some stuff. And then we went and bought and did this retail arbitrage thing. Whereas as a kid, I was like learning how to find opportunities and things to sell online, throw them on eBay, or in some situations back then like KSL, and sell them. And so it inspired me and just kind of created this entrepreneurial journey that really kind of never ended.
Yeah.
And has just been one thing after another, really digitally native first, niche products that work well in an online format. So
That's really, really just an interesting, kind of funny, rebellious in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm
just
sure your
really
mom
cool.
loved you. She probably had
Yeah.
to take a few less trips to the DI, and your junk drawer was probably...
Well, she was cool. I think she was encouraging it
Yeah,
by
she
giving,
was.
Yeah.
Of
giving me
course.
stuff that she probably wanted to keep, books that she didn't actually want to get rid of. But it gave me a really cool opportunity to know that process and
Yeah,
understand what
that's
it was
awesome.
like.
Yeah. So did that lead you to? So now we're high school years.
Yeah.
Did that lead you into that entrepreneurial, you said, lifestyle and idea? What did we study in college? Where was that next step? What'd you do?
Look, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My great grandmother was a swimsuit designer in Brentwood in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
My
So
grandpa
cool.
owned a helicopter company and helped to build the airport in Provo. And people all throughout my family have really kind of grasped that entrepreneurial spirit and built things. And so at some level, I felt like I needed to pursue that path. There was always this
Really
pull.
cool.
But then from the other side, it was, well, no, we need to pursue stability, a safe career, and
It's
a
risky,
safe path.
right?
Right, exactly.
And how do you build that? So before you tell us what you did, I'd love to know, how did you build that confidence to say, I want to risk on myself?
Yeah. So I decided I would do both.
Hey, I love this.
Hedge the risk and do both.
Yeah.
So I went to BYU. I studied finance.
Awesome.
I took a job with Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
But all through that process, I was also building an online company, an e-commerce company.
Not Mission Belt.
Not Mission Belt.
Okay.
Not Mission
We'll
Belt.
get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
That's right. So, and then just dialing back to my college years, I was also investing in knowledge and just understanding how to build and be productive with a digitally native company. So, a family member started Skull Candy, and so I reached out to somebody that was affiliated with it and said, "Hey, I want to learn production. Can I come and spend some time in China with you?" So this is my great uncle. It's the founder's father. And he was living in China at the time, and he said, "Yeah, come out, buy a ticket, and come and hang out with me for a while." And so in 2009, I think it was, I flew myself to China, went and lived in Shenzhen with him for, I don't remember how long it was, and learned the ropes, learned manufacturing, learned product,
Did you speak any Chinese?
not at all.
No.
No,
Did you
not at all.
learn some while you were there?
Well, I got to tell you, that was one of my objectives. If I go to China, I want to know, what does it look like to learn Chinese? Is this
Yeah.
something that I can do and that I want to do? And while I was there, the first guy introduced himself to me. His name was Rambo, by the way, which was awesome. That's what he decided to call himself. And everybody that we needed to talk to spoke English.
Oh, so you didn't
Everybody.
have to.
It's one of the largest English-speaking countries in the world because they learn it from such a young age. And so I decided Chinese is really hard, and it's probably not a language that I want to invest time into learning because everybody I need to talk to speaks English, right? Anyway, so invested in that, went through that process. But I also entered a competition with Omniture, right? You guys remember Omniture?
Yeah.
It sold to Adobe.
Yes.
Okay.
So they had the analytics that were backing up a lot of e-commerce companies. And I entered it with my cousin. And you have to establish a niche, do all sorts of research on this niche product, and then present, and then they decide a winner. And so we went through the process that they assigned in terms of how to decide on a niche, and we decided on eyebrow wax. So
Of all the products.
of all the things, it was a niche that we found that we thought was interesting. So we went through the process and we won. Okay, so we won this competition. It was great. And so these things started to build my confidence in my ability to run a digitally native company, right? Anyway, so you were asking about kind of this path, and I took a job after all of this, kind of these kind of dotted experiences with Goldman Sachs doing credit research. And so I was looking at consumer products companies, and we were doing big deals to help them run their businesses with big asset-backed loans. But at night, I had this e-commerce company that was kind of morphing and changing and developing. And I would go home and I'd literally ship 100 shipments to people all over the country. And so it was just like this onslaught of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going and working and doing Goldman Sachs. And then on
Which
the train
was probably
ride
like
home,
a 12-hour day. Like you work like crazy.
Yeah.
I probably would have killed for a 12-hour day.
On the easy months, maybe not your hard months, but yeah, that's crazy.
And then come home and ship orders while I was doing
Wow.
this e-commerce thing. So anyway, that's a little bit of the genesis of where I come from.
But I just want to point out really quick to like a lot of the brands that potentially are listening. I think that this is something really unique. So you have logistics, fulfillment, e-commerce, as well as the finance piece to all of this education that is all self-taught, truthfully, right? Like this is really cool that you have experience in all of these different fields in order to then create something that you are passionate about, right? Like that's really cool. That's really cool. So at what point did it shift? What point did you say, okay, it's time for Mission Belt?
So Mission Belt was founded by my business partner. And so he had gone through the process of finding the product, had built this foundation. And they had reached out to me and said, hey, like you've got all sorts of experience with China. You've got all sorts of experience with selling on Amazon and all these kinds of things that like we need. Can you help? And I was like, well, let's see. Goldman, my own business, and yeah, I'm sure I can fit it in. And that's generally the answer from entrepreneurs is, yeah, let's figure it out. And so I had it on another layer where I was interacting with our supply chain in China and building out the supply chain for the manufacture of this product, handling Amazon, building out our whole Amazon channel side of the business. And then it just got to the point where it was just beyond insane. And so I knew where my heart was. My heart was in this entrepreneurial, build something, be the master of your own destiny future. And so I walked into the managing director's office at Goldman Sachs and said, hey, I want you to know that this has been a great experience, which it had been. And I realized what this means for my future. I think at this point I was 24, 25 years old. But I am going to leave and I'm going to go and run this belt company. And he just looked at me with this face and he's like, I just kind of got the I felt like I could understand what he was thinking. And it was like, you idiot. Like, why would you leave this path to go and pursue this fool's errand? But I knew that it was the right path. And so anyway, left Goldman and then went over to Mission Belt to start running it and kind of take over the reins and take it to where it is now. So,
which is crazy. It's grown so much. Tell us about what that looks like. You guys are in retail. You're online on Amazon.
Yeah.
What are you not like? Where are you not? You're all over. But how did you get there? Was that a mixed effort? Was that your effort coming into Mission Belt? What was kind of like your biggest contribution, you feel like?
So I think that we were probably of one of the first cohorts of e-commerce first brands that developed the opposite direction of all other companies that preceded us by the previous century, right? Which was brick and mortar first and then e-commerce second. So we were e-commerce almost entirely, right? And then organically have really developed into this omni-channel business. And it's been such a helpful mix for us. And I was thinking about this on the way over. I'm sure that you haven't talked to anybody on this podcast that doesn't mention COVID in some way, right? Because it was such a pivotal moment for retail. So we're in thousands of locations across the country now. Mm-hmm. We still have this really robust e-commerce presence, and then of course, Amazon and everywhere else. When all the stores closed, all of that business shifted online, right? Really familiar place for us to operate, really good place for us to be, and so we thrived. We did quite well. But the entirety of our wholesale business dried up. Then interestingly enough, when the stores started to open back up, a ton of that mix and a ton of that e-commerce business shifted back over to wholesale as those stores started to open back up, as e-commerce started to get more quiet. And so it's really been this counterbalance, this omni-channel kind of strategy where we've got presence and really strong distribution through multiple channels that kind of help with the ebbs and flows of business. So, I would say that, look, our path to kind of get to this point where we do have that good channel diversification has been quite organic, but by design, right, deliberately. We spend a lot of money and a ton of effort, considerable resources to develop a wholesale business that really complements our direct-to-consumer business.
Yeah.
So,
you guys sound very adaptable to me. Like you are able to adapt, and maybe that's the omni piece of it, right? Where you guys can do very, very different channels and figure it out, but very adaptable. It's really, really cool. I'd love to know with that, like retail, what was like the most exciting retailer that you were like, oh my gosh, no way that just landed? Who was the most exciting one for you guys?
Costco.
And tell us why. Like, what did that look like with Costco? How did they find you? How did you guys present? What did that look like?
We had a really great sales rep who worked it the same way that we do everything, which is guerrilla, on the ground, just making it happen.
Yeah.
So it was literally going to store managers at Costco's and saying, hey, how does this work? We're interested in having our belts in your store. Can you connect me with your regional manager? Right? And really kind of worked up that chain until we got to the point where he and I were pitching to the actual buyers in Seattle.
Okay.
Really unassuming. I mean, obviously a multi-billion-dollar operation that's unfathomably large, but it felt very relatable, right? It didn't feel like this overbearing, intimidating experience. We were just selling our belts the same way that we always do. They loved it. They decided that they wanted to bring it in. And they issued a purchase order for many hundreds of thousands of belts, right?
Yeah.
To be distributed across hundreds of clubs throughout the country after having done a short test. And I got to tell you, like, that kicks in entrepreneurial, like, go get 'em spirit like nothing else, because you have to produce
so many units.
So many units all at once, and you've got a huge risk by doing so many all at once. Mm-hmm. But you also need to build displays. You also need to make sure that you've got compliance dialed, that your back-end operations are sufficient to handle what they require on EDI and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at these belts shipped to a warehouse in Seattle prior to distribution throughout the country. And it was like the Indiana Jones warehouse, just endless pallets of belts. And that felt really cool. I mean, seeing it visually before it actually was distributed throughout the country to Costco, it fired me up. It was very cool.
I can only imagine just like your heart and soul, like, just in one huge warehouse, just right there. Like, that's just so cool. I do have a silly question. What did you guys do to celebrate once you got the PO from Costco? It sounds like you just went back to work, which is also really cool. But did you do anything exciting? Because that is huge.
I'd like to say that we did. We absolutely did not. We went straight back to work, and
Hey.
it's like heads down. Now that we've delivered, because there is no victory lap really in that situation. You're kind of still stressing.
You got to figure
Are
out
they
the
going to sell?
logistics.
Is there a defect? Are we going to have a return situation? Is everything going okay? Are we going to meet benchmarks? All those kinds of things. And so that celebration moment is kind of very much in the rear view, and it kind of accumulates over time instead of like a specific moment.
I think that that's also really important because I wanted to ask that question specifically because it's also fun, but also because so many brands feel the way that you are feeling, right? Like, okay, this is a huge deal, but is it actually going to happen? What do I need to have in place to make sure that we are going to be able to fulfill every single order and PO? And do we have buyback terms? And what is that margin? Like, so many revolving questions that I think a lot of times when you get that PO, you feel very alone and you don't know what that looks like or how to go about doing any of the next step. And I think it's important to like let everybody know that it feels that way for everybody. It really, really does.
Yeah.
And having that entrepreneurial mindset of like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We're going to do it. So I think that that's like just really important. I would love to know, with a huge PO like Costco, gigantic, what did you guys know you had to have in place so that Costco would be successful and it wouldn't? A lot of brands get a huge PO, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm too scared. I can't do it. It's going to kill our business if it goes bad. What are the things that you guys did to make sure that it didn't kill Mission Belt?
I think that, first and foremost, you have to make sure that you have a foundation that's set for it. Mm-hmm. If you get into a position where you receive an order like that, or you take on a retail relationship that has the potential to drown you, that you can build on a foundation that's already set. So, I can't say that like we took the order and then we had to go and revise the whole business. The business had been set up for many years prior to it in order to support something like it. And so the things that we had to have in place was an incredible supply chain with suppliers that we could trust and contract manufacturers that we believed in, that knew our business, that we knew that we could scale up to work with in the way that we needed to make sure that we weren't going to have quality issues, to make sure that we could have consistent product and that we could do everything that we needed to do. The other pieces of the puzzle were design, right? Do we have enough creative resources in-house to design the packaging that we need, to design the skirt around the palette that we need, that we're going to be delivering? So, look, I'd like to say that it was this thing that we had to go and chase, but it was very much a lot of pieces that came together that had a foundation that was ready for it. Had that not been in place, I think that we wouldn't have stood a chance.
And I think that's important, though. That piece is the answer, right? Having that foundation in place so that you know at the end of the day you're going to be okay. And even if like you can figure it out, that's really cool.
Look, I would advise any new brand to make sure that you are building for an order like that, to make sure that you are building for whatever relationship that you want.
Because you never know when it's going to come.
Even if you don't need it and you're overbuilt for it, have really great processes. Make sure that your economics are bulletproof, that you trust in your manufacturing so that you can scale up when the call comes, because it happens.
Totally.
Yeah.
My question for you is, there's a lot of people out there who have really great ideas. They want to start a business. They don't know where to even start with manufacturing. What would be your first piece of advice to that person?
I think a lot of people are just crippled by the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, and I think that we've all felt this, where we have this great idea, but we have got a fear of failure. And it's really just start doing anything. Because the reality is that you learn hard lessons really quick, but without just attempting and without trying, you'll never get to that point. So specifically as it relates to manufacturing, look at Alibaba. Start talking to manufacturers. Start reaching out to whatever contacts that you have that have ever made anything, and ask them for advice, and just start, right? Like your whole objective at that point is to find somebody who makes the thing that you want to sell. And it was a heck of a lot harder than it is 20 years ago. It's quite easy now, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to sift through a lot of stuff with the online marketplaces like Alibaba. But it's a good place to go, and it's a good place to start having some conversations and at least get a first prototype or a first batch to start trying to sell whatever that thing is that you have burning in your brain. But just try.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. My next question, Mission Belt. Why the name Mission Belt?
Well, let me ask you. Let's see how good we're doing at marketing. What do you think it is? What's your guess?
Well, I thought it had something to do with like the LDS missionary.
Yeah?
So I was expecting you to get on here and be like, "Oh, I made this belt for my mission."
What do you think?
I think honestly, and maybe this is silly, but I did look at your guys' website
Yep.
before coming today. So I just wanted to make sure I had, I don't know, just a viewpoint at like what's new, what's going on.
Yep.
So my takeaway is like you're on a mission. And so I need to have a belt.
There
like,
you go.
Okay.
Rock
I
on.
understood it.
All right.
Training is good.
It's not missionaries.
It's
It works to our
not
advantage
missionary
because
related.
we've got a lot of the missionaries wearing our product, which
I'm
is very
sure.
Yeah.
We donate $1 of every belt that we sell to microloans to help people start businesses all over the
Oh,
world.
cool.
So we have a mission behind our product.
I love it.
And our intent early on was not to get into a position where we were giving things away to a struggling economy. You can imagine a company that's giving away shoes, right? What do you think happens to the local entrepreneur that's trying to sell shoes? My guy's out of business, right? Everybody can get free shoes. He can't do it. And so our mission and our intent is to help uplift people by giving them what they need, which is capital to start a small enterprise where they can go and provide for themselves and their family and start this process of kind of just generational business building that allows people to actually prosper. So we're doing really small loans, $25 up to maybe $1,000, that allow people to go and purchase a sewing machine, to go and purchase, farm equipment, to go and purchase chickens so they can start selling eggs.
That's so cool.
And it really is all over the world. 70% women is who we're lending to, and we're very much focused in third world countries, Philippines, across Africa, all over the place, and even some here in the United States. But people generally want bigger loans in the U.S.
I honestly love this though, because even if it is in the U.S., like $1,000 covers your MOQ to test out the product that you want to test out. And so, I think that even just the little bit of help sometimes makes a huge difference. So it's just really, really cool that you guys are doing that, and that you have a mission for your own brand, right?
Yep.
Like it's really smart. I'm curious if Goldman Sachs came into play with that idea, like just your experience in the finance world.
No, I can't take credit for this. This
Cool.
predates me. This is
Okay.
this is my business partners. But look, we've been doing it for a decade, and we've done 250,000 loans. We've lent out $7 million, and the stories that we see and what we see people doing is awesome. It makes it worth it. It's very cool. So yeah.
That's
We're excited about it and very proud of
incredible.
it. That's the mission.
Okay, I'm glad I asked because
Yeah.
I feel like it brings a lot more
Yep.
background into the product, the brand. But yes, I feel like a lot of missionaries do wear your product. So I
Yes.
think maybe it's a misconception like everyone assumes. But
Yep.
I'm like, no,
especially
that's
where
so
we
cool.
live.
I know, yeah.
absolutely. In Utah, it's a very like LDS centered. That's very true.
What's your top store? Like, where do you sell the most units, wholesale wise?
Our biggest stores and where we found the most success is with regional stores. And one of our first ones was Shields,
Yeah.
actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
They are go-getters. They are so interested in taking a risk on a new product, and they took a risk on us. And in so doing, we discovered a really sweet spot for ourselves, which is regional stores that have a vested interest in a product, where it's not sitting on, with some nameless associate who doesn't ever try to engage with you and sell you a product. Shields does that. And so we have tried to find those kinds of stores throughout the country, and we have successfully. And so stores like it do quite well.
What are a few of those?
So
Just to name a few.
North 40 Outfitters is a great one that does more kind of outdoor focused type stuff. Murdoch's is another great one. They're a farm and ranch type store that's got regional presence throughout the Mountain West. That's really great. Shields is awesome. But we've also done big box, and we've done really well in a lot of big box stores. Buckle, surprisingly, right? We sell a belt buckle, and the store
Hey,
buckle has
Kassi.
been awesome for us.
Everybody knows. I think Buckle is a trendsetter for sure.
Yeah.
Their buyers are incredible to work with too.
Yeah.
So everybody on my team usually makes fun of me, but I always say call Buckle first. They'll give
Yeah.
you like the real They'll give you
She's
the
a
real
Buckle
answer.
diehard fan.
I am for sure.
Yeah.
I do think what you said about regional approach though is something that a lot of brands on your wish list, the big guys are always going to be on your wish list, right?
Right.
Like of course everybody wants to be in the Nordstrom and the big mass retailers that are going to order a ton of units and hopefully get your brand awareness out there. But I want brands so much to focus more on that regional too, because
Yeah.
that relationship and the longevity of that relationship and the reorders and the upsell and the everything that you get as a brand from that relationship and that the retailer gets from the brand too. It's just such an like people just need to realize that regional approach could be
Yeah.
huge for your brand. So I love that you guys are doing that.
Well, and mass retail is tough. Like we've done it and we have no control, right? And I'll give you an example of it. We were excited about Zoomies. We pitched Zoomies and we were rolled out in Zoomies. And we weren't selling very well. And we're like, what in the world? Like we sell well everywhere we are. Why are we not selling well here? And so we had people, throughout the country go and visit the stores to see what was going on. And when they went into the stores, they found a bucket filled with belts, right? And they're all just completely jumbled up, mixed up. You have to actually dig through it to find a belt that you want. And somewhere in there were our belts, right? And so we reached out to the buyer. We're like, what is going on here? And they're like, look, our whole merchandising approach, we want it to feel like a teenager's bedroom. We want people to come into these stores and feel like they're in a teenager's bedroom. And oftentimes that means digging through and finding a treasure. And that's what we're doing with belts. And I'm like, all right, well, it's over for us. Like we have to be displayed. Every belt that was in there was $8 or $9. Ours is 40. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't stand a chance. And so really little control in terms of merchandising, really little control in terms of how the belt is being presented. Absolutely zero opportunity for education of like store. It's just too vast. It's too big.
Yeah.
There's too much turnover to actually train associates on like what our product is and how to sell it.
Right. Well, and I like even just trying your belt out. I can only imagine being in Zoomies with like my son and then putting that on and getting stuck in it and not knowing how to get out.
Yeah,
and then no associate there to help.
Yeah.
We have some viewers on here who have never seen or tried or touched a Mission belt. What's different about Mission belt? And tell us anything about the belt that would,
Yes. So our belt doesn't have any holes in it. It's got micro adjustments, and so it adjusts every quarter inch instead of every inch. So it grows with you. You're running a half marathon, right?
Yeah.
So after that, you can shrink that thing down. But
hopefully.
Right?
We'll see.
Thanksgiving rolls around, you can let out a few notches.
Yeah.
So it's micro adjustable, super comfortable. It fits perfectly, no holes. We always say it fits perfectly, fights poverty, right?
Cool.
Between the mission and between how the belt actually functions. So it works a lot like a snowboard binding or like a zip tie that you can actually release. So it'll click into the buckle, and then it's got a small lever on the bottom that you can pull up to release it, and then open up the belt. So, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
product.
the education there has to be, with your store, you have to trust those associates to help educate your consumer on how to use it, how to take the belt off. Like I was telling when we first got here, I'm like, hand Kassi a belt, see how long it takes her to unhook it. But you're a lot smarter than I am. It took me like 30 minutes.
Puzzles. I love puzzles. But I want to circle back because I don't want to lose this for the brand's perspective on Zoomies is the perfect example for you guys, that education piece.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of brands want so badly to get into retailers, right? They're so stoked about specific retailers, and they do have to remember that a product like yours is the perfect example of problem and solution, which means education.
Right.
What have you guys done to, like, the brands that are listening, as a brand to educate on like your product and why people need it, problem solution mentality?
Yeah. I mean, I think that this goes back to what we were talking about previously around regional. I think that we have in some ways a limit in terms of the size of retail that works really well for us. And the reason that I think that it's regional is because we can have personal conversations with those stores, with store managers, store buyers, and even down to store associates. Our goal is to make sure that every one of them is wearing a Mission belt, because if they can wear it, it sells itself. It's like you saw. I mean, you used it for a few seconds and you knew exactly how it worked and what the benefit of it was.
Right.
But if we're in a situation where we're in a mass distribution, mass retail company, it's really hard to have those conversations. So in terms of educating, we look for any opportunity that we can take, especially those that are provided by stores, to go and interact with those companies. I'll use Shields again for an example. They hold a really great event every year called Shields University, where they bring in as many of their associates and store managers as they can, and then they give us a short period of time to get in front of them, show them what's new, show them how to use the product, educate them on what we're doing, why we're called Mission Belt. And then that allows for them to go and be empowered and enabled to have those same conversations with customers. So we look for any interaction like that we can possibly find to interact with any of these buyers that we have, to just give them that opportunity.
That's so cool.
Yep.
I love that. Well, and that's why like it does well at Buckle then too, because you have actual sales associates on the floor explaining how the product works, how it sells, what you do.
Right.
So that is a really, really cool approach to take if you have an education-based
Yep.
product.
And we
Really
want
cool.
stores that interact with their consumers. We don't love stores where the consumer is a stranger wandering throughout the floor trying to find things that they want to take home. We want to have an aided purchase process where the customer can be educated and learn about what it is that we're doing and try this unique and novel concept, Keep Your Pants Up. So
I love this. I want to know, kind of with that mentality of education, how you guys have been around for a long time now. What is your favorite trade show? What does that look like when you're educating buyers that are walking by? What does that process look like for you guys?
So we go to a lot of trade shows.
That was like 2 questions in one. I apologize, but
No, it's great. We go to a lot of trade shows. Favorite trade show? Actually, I'm not going to tell you the favorite trade show because it's our hidden little secret
Okay.
that we have
He's
when we
the
have a ton of
gatekeeper.
success. So we're going to keep that one close to the vest.
I love it.
But we go to the PGA show every year. So the PGA show is in
Okay.
Orlando. That's a really great show for us. Every golfer wears a belt, right? Every golfer kind of likes to show off and flaunt their belt. And so that's an opportunity for us to engage with it's open to golfers and then also a lot of golf-focused stores, country clubs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we go there and we feel like we're at home, like we're amongst people that are very much interested in our product. And then at those shows, right, like you actually do have to engage with the public. I think that sitting there and waiting for somebody to come and speak to you is a fool's errand. But you also don't want it to feel like a flea market where you're out there trying to hawk your product. But having natural conversations with people, doing something that's attractive. We do something really unique where we actually bring a laser engraver and we can engrave store logos or country club logos on our buckles, which is absolutely a hook and
That
gets
is
people
so
to come
cool.
and engage with us, where we can have conversations about product and then ultimately sell them. So, yeah.
So private labeling essentially is another piece of your guys' business.
More swag. It's
Okay,
not
swag.
necessarily,
Yeah.
if you go to a country club or you go to a tournament
Yeah.
and it is engraved with that country's logo or that country club's logo or the tournament insignia, whatever, that's where we do well.
That is really cool.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Any cool golfers that wear Mission Belt?
I got to tell you, Tony Finau wore our belt for many years before he was absolutely taken over by Nike.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fun.
Is he Utah?
He is.
Yeah, I was gonna say as he
Yeah.
should.
Absolutely. So
Feel like
huge
we
fan,
need
and we hoped,
Support the Utah
fingers
brands.
crossed, to have him kind of be a Mission Belt guy, which we like to believe that he is at heart. But Nike
Nike pays him
Nike
the big
took over.
bucks. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they wanted every piece of him. They weren't willing to let the belt go. So
But that's really fun that like just organically he wore the belt too.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's so cool.
totally, and we'll see golfers, professional golfers that are wearing our product completely organically, and we love to see it.
Honestly though, this belt is perfect for golfing because you're on the course and then you go eat lunch after and then you need to like ratchet. Is that the right term?
Sure.
To like, ratchet it out a little bit
Yes.
when you're having lunch. I'm like, that's so true. I love this.
And I got to tell you, you said your husband wears one, right?
Yeah, he does.
So he'll totally relate to it. Like when you sit in an airplane and that thing you're an hour into the flight and that thing's digging in, you just reach down, let it out a little bit. Good as can
Yeah,
be.
and it doesn't have to be some like whole situation happening. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a very classy way
Subtle
to.
and easy, full class. It's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
It just is like a very perfect solution that you guys have created. I like absolutely love it. So here's my next question,
'Kay.
and it's pun intended. What's next for Mission Belt? You guys have really tackled so much retail, D2C. Like what's next on your guys' docket?
We're a belt company, right? It's called Mission Belt. It's missionbelt.com. And so we sell belts. And so we continue to come out with really unique and great designs around that product and around that niche. We're really excited to be announcing a concealed carry product. So it's a tactical belt that's core reinforced, super strong, that is maybe not quite at the level of a duty belt, meaning what a police officer would wear, but something that somebody who carries, a concealed carry firearm or a Leatherman or whatever they have to have on their belt, it's going to be really, really great for that. So that's coming out in really shortly. So keep an eye on things, and you'll see when that comes out. We've got a suede belt that's coming out. We're always coming out with new collections and new products that are going to appeal to people that just want something different. What we're showing here right now is kind of our most basic products that we've literally been selling for a decade. But if you go on the site, I promise you'll be overwhelmed by the options that we offer.
How many SKUs do you guys have?
If I'm counting SKUs, it's literally thousands, because we can combine any buckle with any strap, and we
cool.
do that. But in terms of unique buckles and unique colored straps, we've got hundreds of different options. So
I love this. I would love to know what made you guys branch out, while we're talking about SKUs, to women and kids, and what was the strategy involved with that? I mean, you always make belts.
Yeah. So everybody wears a belt, literally every human, and it's actually really interesting from a retail discussion, because there almost isn't a store where we can't be successful. We sell at bike shops, we sell at gun stores, we sell at golf shops, we sell at better men's stores, we sell in outdoor stores. I mean, like literally you name it, we're there. Surf shops in Southern California, there's a lot of places where we can be successful. We had a lot of women that were wearing belts designed for men. And we're saying, hey, can you please design one for women? And so we always wanted to. It was always a desire of ours to make sure that we had a belt that was specific for women. Mm-hmm. And finally, I think it was in I'm going to get the date wrong. I'm not even going to try. But years ago, we came out with Mission Belt for Women. And it's been great. It's an awesome product. You guys should definitely try it out. I think that
I
you would
didn't
love
know
it.
you had that.
Yeah.
I'm honestly excited just looking at your guys' website. Like, they're stunning, beautiful belts, and there's stuff for everybody. I think, too, even for my son in the kids category, once he figures that latch out, easy, so fast for kiddos.
Well, it's great for kids because they grow so fast. I mean, they really grow
They really
fast.
do. Yep.
And so if you can just buy one belt, I mean, you can save yourself a ton of money by just buying it at a young age and allow them to grow into it over time. So it works perfectly for kids.
Yeah, and as a mom myself, I always buy my kids the next size up of clothes.
Yep.
Right, and then you need a belt to keep it on. So
yeah, exactly.
so
exactly.
true.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I always had the pants with the elastic cinch, and I had to cinch them all the way.
Oh.
Yep.
Yes.
I just couldn't fit in any of my pants as a kid,
needed a
so I
mission
needed a
belt.
mission belt. Yep.
I know we were too late,
was
but now you
little-
can jump in.
I know. I need to try them out. I didn't even know you guys had women belts. I
Yes,
don't
we do.
even wear belts because I don't know how to style them.
Yeah, I think that's probably been our biggest challenge. Look, we've got several different colors, a lot of options that women love, but the style for women's belts changes so fast.
I'm sure.
So fast. And
Whereas
I mean,
the men's, you probably wouldn't have to even worry about reinventing your belt for 20 years.
I mean, imagine
still
your
be in
dads.
style.
They've probably been wearing the same style belts
Oh,
since
yeah.
you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
were tiny kids.
Oh yeah.
And so we're really great there. But I mean, double buckles, Western styling, no belt, all sorts of stuff, and it changes really fast. And that's not fully a place that we want to play in.
Mm-hmm.
We're comfortable with a woman that needs a good product, a basic belt that works well, and we've got a really great solution for that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, that comes back to you guys knowing the intent behind why you're making the products you're making and that mission and all of it. It just all ties together of knowing your niche, which is really cool.
I think that, as a brand develops and as your company matures, you really learn who you are. You learn who your customer is. We've talked a lot about the stores where we can be successful. But I think at this point, we've been doing this for 12 years now. And, it's not an eternity, but it's a fairly long time for a retail company in a digitally native space. And I think that we've really acquired a taste for what we do well. And we really lean into that and try to do everything that we can to not veer from that, and to not try to pretend to be someone that we're not. From a brand perspective, from a product perspective, from a cultural perspective, we just try to remain really authentic to what we feel like we're good at doing.
That is really neat. Really neat. I'd love to know if there are any stories or funny stories that you can share that people can't figure out the belts. And you can share whatever story or not. But I was like, is it a common problem at trade shows? Is it when people pick up the belt at first? Like, how does that conversation typically look like?
You know, there's a lot of awkward interactions when you've got guys that have put on the belt for the first time at a trade show or in a retail setting or whatever the case may be, and they can't get it off. And I've got some colleagues that are much more brave than I am. And they'll just reach in and help them take it off, right? And so like they'll just do it. We've sold a lot of belts, right? Like many millions of belts, and so we've had, you name it, stuff has happened. But we've had a time or two where somebody's like can't figure it out, like they don't know where the latch is, they've tightened it too tight, or maybe a bigger guy or something like that, and like literally can't get it off. And so we've had one or two situations where we've got people that got to go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
And they can't figure out how to get out of the belt. And so they'll chat in or they'll call in freaking out, like full panic, and just are like not in the headspace to listen to instructions and like give a 20-second tutorial on how to use it. And so we'll be like, don't worry about it. Cut it off. Do your thing. We'll send you a new one, right?
That's so
I
awesome.
love that you guys send them a new one, because we've all been in situations where it's like, man, I have to go to the restroom.
Yes.
I have to go. What are we going to do? And I can't imagine being in that panic of not knowing how to get your belt off. And I even think of my own son, who I can't imagine how like out of this world he would be. Just, Mom, I don't know what do I do?
Yeah.
Like,
Stuck with his pants on.
Oh, and I just think my funny boys with the belt, if they didn't know how it works, would just be totally wild.
Well, that's why we like having that really brief interaction, and we've got really great point of purchase displays that we put in all of our stores with a really brief infographic. On one side, it shows what the mission is behind Mission Belt, and on the other side, it shows how to use it. Just 3 simple steps. But having just a really brief tutorial on how to use a product, you can imagine taking a normal belt with holes to somebody that never used one before in their entire life. And they would be totally confused. What is this for? What are these holes? How do I do this?
Yeah.
It's the same concept, and so we do have to have a really brief education session, 15 seconds on how to use it. But then it's locked in. That's all you need.
I have a logistical question for you. So a lot of brands ask me this, and I usually say the retailer comes up with it with the brand specifically. When it comes to education for marketing, right? And like what the retailer has space for, what they need in their store, what their customer is going to need education-wise. How do you and the retailer, do you work together to create those marketing assets? Do you require the retailer to use certain marketing assets? How does that usually go into play?
I think that is more the sell than the actual product. The product is awesome, and it's pretty easy to convince a store that they should carry Mission Belt. What is the harder sell is to say, hey, you need to allocate some space to us so that we can create a point of purchase display, so that we can do a little bit of education, because the product is going to sell 10 times better in that situation. So we're really aggressive on that conversation to try to work with the retailer to make sure that they bring in one of our freestanding point of purchase displays. Once that's in there, it does the education.
Yep.
If we can just get the space for it. There are a lot of stores that are not willing to part ways with us, with their floor space. And I'll just give you a quick example. So we talked about Zoomies earlier. Now I'm going to talk about Journeys. So we did a national rollout with Journeys. And Journeys was insistent on putting the belt inside of a plastic case, folded plastic, or a clamshell plastic case. And then they wanted to merchandise it in their glass case at the register. So no ability to have like this tactile interaction with our product, which is totally mandatory. And so it sat behind this glass wall where the customer could barely see it, let alone interact with it. And we were like, look guys, like we want to support you. We want this to be successful, but we promise you that this isn't going to work out. Like we need to hang this thing up on a wall. And so, but they were insistent. They're like, look, we have small stores. Our wall space is totally accounted for with Converse shoes and hats. Like we can't do wall space. And so sure enough, like it didn't work out. So anyway, we've learned the hard way in a lot of situations that we just have to have good marketing materials in store to educate the customer.
I think that this is something important that, I have a lot of conversations with brands with this. Like, how do we get them to give us that space? What does it look like? And I think it's important as the brand to remember it's okay to negotiate for what your brand needs to. So just remember that, like, as a brand as a whole, like, you are a perfect example of, like, we know what our brand needs to get you the sell through that you're going to want for your store. So please, like, negotiate with us, work with us. Like, we will make it work, but we need that education. I think is really, really, really cool. Really cool.
Absolutely.
Well, one final question. What are you doing in your free time?
Oh, that's a good question. If I could find it.
Yeah.
No. Between 4 little kids and business, it gets a little bit crazy. Mountain biking. Look, like we live right up against the mountain. And there's been like this renaissance of people that are so into it. And it's crazy. I mean, I grew up, a few minutes away from here. And these hills, Silicon Slopes, for me as a child were just the slopes, right?
Yeah.
And they were completely open. And so I was dirt biking, and I was on a 4-wheeler, and I was doing whatever I wanted in the hills where there are now homes and where it's completely gated off and blocked off.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was a little bit devastating for me to lose that and kind of see how things have changed over the years as I now am an adult and have my own kids. But I love being able to get up onto those same trails on my mountain bike and, like, be in those same places where I used to have a motor to help me out. It's way harder now, but I still love getting out there and doing it. So, yeah, that as much as I can.
Do your kiddos come with you on the bikes yet?
Almost.
Hey.
Yeah, we're
so
getting them
fun.
there. I bought this, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they're these seats that, like, sit on the front of the
Yes.
crossbar.
So cute.
And so I'll throw my kid up there just to make it even more punishing for myself to, like, haul this 30-pound
You
kid
need
up
the
the
e-bike
mountain.
version.
I know. So, yeah, they're coming, but mostly with me pushing them up a hill.
Oh, that's so
So
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
love it.
Connor, thank you so much for coming. It was so good to just hear about Mission Belt and what you guys are doing. And
Yeah, thank you
we're
guys.
excited for you. Where
Yeah.
can our consumers find you if they want to purchase a belt?
Missionbelt.com or a lot of stores.
Any retail store?
Yeah, not any retail store, unfortunately. We're getting there. But a lot of golf shops, a lot of specialty retail, a lot of regional stores. But missionbelt.com or Amazon is the way to find us easiest.
Awesome.
Yep.
No, it has just been such a privilege. So thank you for letting
Thank
us
you
pick
guys.
your brain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
See ya.